Good evening, class. My name is Leonard Buchanan. I'm going to be talking today about a subject that's kind of going on in our country today, and things are getting pretty bad. The subject I want to be talking about is gun control. Now, I know how this is a touchy subject, but I also know that something needs to be done. We have people, in my opinion, like Wayne LaPierre and the NRA, who's holding this country hostage. They believe a good guy with a gun can stop a bad guy with a gun. I don't necessarily believe that. I don't think you can stop any guy with a gun. The fastest gun will probably win. So, good guy, bad guy, whatever. Innocent people get shot. Collateral damage happens. And that's one of the biggest fears I have with more guns going out is collateral damage. I know what the Second Amendment says. I'm very aware. However, again, there's ways that we can get things done, and we have to work together as a country. We're going to look back at some history, particularly former President Reagan. Back in 1981, President Reagan, one of the most popular presidents we've had, well, somebody decided they were going to try to assassinate him. That man's name was John Hinckley. He had a small caliber handgun, yes. However, he did manage to get 6 shots off very rapidly. None of those shots luckily hit the president except for by ricochet, which did do major damage and cause some harm. However, several people of the president's staff were killed. One particular was James Brady, his press secretary. President Reagan, this hurt President Reagan. And President Reagan was a member of the NRA. But he also realized things like this can't continue to happen, and something needed to be done. And later on in his life, President Reagan did support the Brady Bill, which limited certain types of guns in our country. The next area I'm going to talk about is former President Bush, the elder Bush, not the younger Bush, but the former President Bush, the elder, H.W. He was also a life member of the NRA. But Wayne LaPierre, once again, speaks a lot for the NRA. Doesn't necessarily speak for all gun owners, but he said the government, with jackbooted tactics, they were like Nazis wearing funny helmets, breaking into people's houses, going after law-abiding Americans. And President Bush didn't appreciate those statements. In fact, he didn't appreciate them so much that he withdrew his lifetime membership from the NRA. President Bush is a gun lover, but he also realizes some things are irresponsible. And like now, the NRA and a lot of people want to hold the country hostage behind the Constitution. Again, I realize the Constitution, what it says, but I also know that the Constitution says a well-regulated militia. And if we don't have a well-regulated militia, then what do we have? We have an out-of-control militia. And that's what I believe we have right now. People out of control with guns. No, I don't want just the criminals to have guns. I don't want to take people's guns away. However, there is a sensible way to do some form of gun control and still let the hunters have the hunting rifles. Not the assault rifles, but the hunting rifles. And the homeowners who want to protect their family and their homes to also have the guns that they want. There's certain type bullets out there. I don't even see a sporting purpose. Hollow point bullets, armor piercing bullets. For what? Who needs those? The military really doesn't even need those, because I was in the military, and just the thought of somebody having an armor piercing bullet, what's the purpose? I might as well be in a tank. So also we're going to look back at, again, that Constitution says well-regulated militia. We have a housing crisis in the country right now as well. And a lot of that came from the banks being out of control. They were not well regulated. They did whatever they wanted. Why did they do whatever they wanted? Well, because again, there was no regulation to stop them. So we've got to look at some of our regulations on guns and do something without hurting the law-abiding citizen. Also, back on the international level, in England or Scotland back in 1996, there was a school shooting very much similar to Sandy Hook. A lot of kids, but 16, I believe, were killed by a deranged gunman. But England took some drastic measures. They didn't really want to, but they felt like they had no other choice. And those measures, well, to date, since 1996 to current day, there has not been another school shooting in that region again. So some would say it worked. Others would say maybe not, because some levels of violence are up in that country. But again, we can attack this sensibly. But I think the worst thing we can do is just sit back and do nothing at all. Again, Leonard Buchanan, I'm talking about gun control. Have a good evening, Kaplan. Congratulations to everybody on your speeches.